Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. Welcome to our session Meet the Global Leader. This webinar is organized by School of Entrepreneurship Development, and the objective of this webinar is to share the professional journey of an individual to get an insight and create an awareness among university going students how this person has come to this his or her professional journey and the learnings from the professional journey and how was his or her university life, so that we try to connect the dots and share the journey and some lessons from that person's professional life. So today we have invited Ms. Rose. She is working with the United Nations Population Fund in Bangladesh. So, Rose, welcome to our session.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Great. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Roos, and I am from the Netherlands. I am here in Bangladesh since October 2023, working with the UNFPA. Before that, I also was in Bangladesh 2 times. First time with the embassy of the Netherlands in Bangladesh as intern, and then after that, I had the opportunity to come back and to work again with the embassy. This time a little bit longer for 10 months on a short assignment related to Bangladesh Delta Plan. So my family is in the Netherlands. My parents, I have a brother and a sister also. I was raised in different places. So I kind of moved throughout the entire Netherlands, but the Netherlands is a very small country, so that doesn't say a lot. But yeah, right now we are based in Utrecht, which is a Dutch city, very at the center of the Netherlands. So it's a very lovely city. It's a little bit like Amsterdam, but smaller and less touristy usually. Yeah, that's short about me.
Great. So, can you go back to your university life or student life? How was your university life, and what did you do during your student life activities, apart from
Mm,
your studies, that helped you develop some skills?
yeah, it's a great question, and I thought a little bit about it before that. So, when I had to study, like choose my study for university, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I was interested in so many things. I looked at psychology, I looked at anthropology, music, theater, literature, law. I think I tried a lot of these different things, like to go to open days and everything. But then I found a study that I was really interested in because it allowed me to do everything. It's basically called liberal arts and sciences. And it's based on this American model where you have a very broad base, and then throughout the years, you kind of build in a pyramid towards a specialization, a major, they call it. Um, but my parents were not really in favor of it. They were like, well, we're not sure what this is. This is not normally what Dutch people would tend to study. So it's a bit odd also. But I said, no, I really feel like this is the place for me, like I wanted to do it. And it was very small university. So only 600 people in total over the 3 years of the bachelor program, right? But in the end, I'm so happy that I did it because I really enjoyed my university so much. It was a small scale program. Everyone knew everyone. And the good thing was also that because that happened, we had a lot of time and interaction with the teachers, with the professors, right? And I noticed that was super motivating for me, like to talk with them, to be active part in their research projects. They were really inviting, like students already, to contribute in a meaningful way, and that's why I learned from a very, I would say, like young university age already, like how to do the research, how to be proactive. These kind of skills were very vital, I think, for me in my future career. I think also one lesson and takeaway that I got from university was do as many things as possible that you want to do. Because for me, that was really the time to explore. I did study a lot, but I also had a lot of time in between, like to not only have fun, like I definitely had my fair share of that. But in between, there were so many activities that students did. So, for example, I was on the board of Amnesty International. I volunteered for a position which was with a kind of an NGO locally that helped refugee children with activities, with different kind of things for mental health well-being. I was involved in my third year for event organizing committee, where we invited guest speakers from different countries actually, to talk about specific topics, be it philosophical topics, be it about more like societal impact topics. So that was really interesting. Like not only you meet amazing friends through that. A couple of these people are still one of my closest friends. I'm going to a wedding in January, and actually, it's from a friend who I met in one of these committees. Um, but besides friendship, you also build a really your skill set. I would say things that you don't learn in the classroom, right? Think about how do you organize a really big scale event with really big names. How do you prioritize your time management when you have to study for N2 exams and you have to deliver on your different commitments? um, Working with people from different varieties and from different disciplines, I think that's also incredibly valuable for me. During my student time, I worked with not only professors but also with people from the NGO, people from the local community, with shops, people who were 50 or a little bit older generation. So you learn a lot of communication skills and different other insights about how the world works, really. How do societal institutions work together, right? That is extremely valuable. And I'm so happy that I did it. I mean, times were crazy and very hectic sometimes, but in the end, I managed to do it. And I also learned a lot about time management because of that and my own priorities. Those are skills that I can nowadays, working with the UN, working with different parties, really build upon. And maybe one final thing that I learned. I told you, my parents were not super supportive of my choice at first, but still I said, listen, this is what I want to do, and I feel it's the right choice. Um, I think that if I had listened to my parents, I would not be where I am today. So I'm not saying don't listen to your parents, but what I am saying is follow your heart, follow your gut instincts, because I think you really know already at that age what you want. And, if you follow that, I think that will keep you on the right track throughout your life, because in the end, it's not about making money. It's not about, having this really great career that your parents are going to be proud of. Yes, you want that, but in the end, you want to do something that matters to you and that you can be passionate about, because only that will keep you, going for the coming 30, 40 years, that you have to have a job. So yeah, I'm really thankful and happy that I had that choice and that in the end also my parents supported me in that, because that is ultimately what I think led me to where I am nowadays.
Great and wonderful. And this is a very important point because you knew what you were doing and what those activities could help you or lead you, and you
Mm,
were following your hearts. So
yeah.
sometimes, it's difficult to let people understand, let friends understand what we want to do. Maybe
Mm,
sometimes, our friends, they don't know what we are good at or what we like. So for example, I used to participated in so many seminars. So
right.
my friends thought, some of my friends thought that it's a time waste. But I
Mm,
learned a lot.
yeah.
Sometimes other people don't understand what we want to learn or what we want to do. But this is the important, that what actually I like or that person like. So it's very important. And very interesting point that you shared is research. So how having that skill of doing research can help anyone in any career sector, according to you? Why it is such an important skill for anyone? Can you share some of the benefits or importance of having research skill?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think nowadays research is one of the most important skills to have, because information is out there, right? Like we have nowadays the Google engines, we have ChatGPT for those who have tried it. You have everything, information is there. There are experts with a lot of information, a lot of knowledge and experience. Um, but accessing and being able to access that specific research or that specific information that might bring you closer to your goal, be it professional, be it personal, um, that is of vital importance for your success. And also for making sure that others see you as an additional value to their company or to their organization. And I think it will only become more important as time will go on from now. Like when I talk with industry professionals, be it in the development sector, but also in the private sector, it's all about data and all about research, because you have to be seeing the patterns, trying to connect the dots. And the only way to be doing that is to think critically, ask the right questions, and then being able to do the research to get the answers to that question. And the research, it doesn't have to look like research in academia, you know. I think that is where
Yep.
you start often, and these skills are incredibly important. Like, where do you look for sources? How do you citate? How do you do interviews? How do you analyze certain data? Right, that is where we start. But then on top of that, you have the research. That's more about the human skill, you know, like what. Um, what is your prioritization of where do you go for research, right? Because think about it, at university I had like maybe sometimes 4 weeks to do my research before I could hand in a paper, right? So I went to the library, I had my time to do research. But nowadays I have to do research sometimes within, let's say, 1 day, because then my boss expects me to have like a policy brief with the most important things. I cannot afford to go to the library, I cannot afford to like do my investigation, right? So you have to first of all know where to get the right information and how to do research very quickly and efficiently. Then second of all, you have to be able to distill the information in a way that you know these are the main important points. So you have to be able to read through a text and be very clear in these are the key messages. And then research is also about communicating about it. So communication can go verbal and it can go written. So maybe you want to specialize more into the written one, or maybe you're someone who, like me perhaps, is a little bit more about, you know, talking to people, transferring information like that. Also getting information, doing the research by talking to different people. It's also a skill that's, I think, nowadays becomes so more important, you know, because what I see happening is that we're all very busy, right? So you get a lot of emails, and the more that you will grow in your career, trust me, the more emails you will be getting. Like, even if I don't have a, you know, if I have a meeting for 1 hour, maybe sometimes 50 emails, you know, I cannot read everything. So what happens if I want to collaborate with someone, I think about, okay, I know this person works in this section, or maybe I heard about this person doing that work that is relevant to what I want to do. Let me, you know, like reach out to that person. So you see, it's research is nowadays not only about going online or finding the information, but it's about knowing people. And that element, that social element, is so important to invest in, you know. So for me also, one key takeaway is go out, you know, meet people, be part of groups, even groups like you said earlier, is that sometimes people don't understand, like, oh, why would you go to this event, or how is that exactly relevant to your portfolio? Maybe it's not, and maybe that's exactly what you need in that moment, because there you can find interesting people that maybe have similar objectives as you, but you're completely coming from it from a different angle. But if you manage to find that connection, it will bring an amazing partnership. I can assure you. So those are the kind of things that will give you a lot of added value to your company, to your network, to the people that you were working with, because you bring something then that no other person has thought of. And nowadays, I think that is important. That creativity is what doing research is all about, really.
Great. So I'm having some issue with my camera, but like, can you share a little bit about how you started your professional career?
Sure, yes. How did I start my professional career? It's always a bit difficult, I think, to see like where was the start, right? Because my university was so into already bringing students on board to do research and to be part of like really professional activities. You know, like during my bachelor, I did a research study, several actually, but one was with researchers from Norway and England. Another one was with people from the government. So I felt there already I was learning a lot of professional skills and like working on my professional career in a way, even if I didn't know it, right? Um, so that helped me to launch, I would say, the career after that. Um, I'm pausing because I see a little bit of lag in my video. Can you still hear me? Just checking if the sound is working. Maboop?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it okay? Yeah? Okay, because sometimes my internet is a bit wobbly, so I apologize for that.
No,
Um,
it's totally all right.
okay. So what I was saying is that these kind of small activities already helped me to like launch my career, I would say. But then after my university bachelor, I did a master's in Belgium, and I made the decision to go abroad because I wanted adventure and I didn't want to do it too far away, so I went to Belgium. And for those who know a little bit the geography of Europe, Netherlands and Belgium are very close to each other. So I just went across the border, maybe 3 hours away from my hometown. But still, it felt like an entire different world. I met new people, the language was different, the environment was different. So that helped me already in a lot of terms, like skill building, like how to manage in a new situation, right? And at Leuven University, where I did my master's, my research master, um, I joined two, yeah, they called it honors classes. So those were like extra curriculum activities that were maybe over a month of 6 months. I did one in my second year and one in my third year, and these helped me to connect to people outside of my psychology because I did a master's in research psychology back then. It helped me to look across that and also to be very practical involved in a project. Now, after my master's, I actually did a couple of internships to build my experience. I did an internship at the municipality of Rotterdam. I joined a behavioral insights group, they called it. So that was basically the behavioral insights unit of the government of Rotterdam. So think about problems that a municipality might have with, it can be about trash in the streets towards safety for women at night, you know? There are a lot of policy things about it, but they wanted to make it evidence based, and there comes in the research, right? So the research group was involved in making these projects more scientific, and I was program assistant in that for I think 8 months. I did an internship, which was really valuable. Then, at the end of that 8 months, my supervisor actually asked me to be a tutor at the Erasmus University for a couple of months because they needed someone to fill a gap. And I was like, okay, sure, if you think I can do it, I'm happy to assist. So, I got my second job as a tutor immediately after that. I think a very
Actually,
key takeaway.
during your internship, actually,
Yes.
what was your activities? What did you do? I mean, task wise.
Um, so what I did was I helped with key performance interviews. So in order to do the right policy, we interview different stakeholders, which was super interesting. Like one day I was working with young people in Rotterdam. The other day I was working with people who lost their jobs sadly and who were receiving some benefits. Another day, I was working with people who were in the harbor working as bridge. You know, like when you have a river, you have bridges, and people had to take off the bridge up and down. There were a lot of accidents with people in the bridge. So I was talking with them, like to see, okay, what is the problem? What kind of solutions are you working on with different people? You know, so that gave me an amazing exposure to different societies, you know, in living in Rotterdam together. But besides the interviews, I also worked on partnerships. So we presented the results to different partners. I help with presentations. I help with making speaking notes, briefing notes. I did research on potential partners that we could work with, because yes, we did the research, but we also wanted to sell part of our research to other units, right? So these could be companies of the municipality, but it could also be various, you know, like research institutes that we would be collaborating with. I also worked with data analysis and data cleaning. So we had colleagues who actually did collect quantitative data. I helped a little bit with that as well. So going into the field, you know, um, counting people, tracking different kind of things in the street happening, logging that into the Excel sheets. So that data information and cleaning, I was also involved in. And what else? Oh yeah, we went to symposia to present our research, and I also supported in that. So yeah, preparing the presentation slides, talking with people at the symposia,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, your work actually really was very engaging. I mean, with people, the
Yeah,
community, and going into the field or collecting data,
definitely.
and you enjoyed it. I mean, mixing with people and stuff. So, yeah, you're saying like when you, uh, why did you choose like doing internship in the embassy in Bangladesh? What excited? What makes made you excited regarding this?
Yeah. Well, I still get very excited when I think about that because at that moment Um, I never thought I was going to be coming back to Bangladesh 3 times. For those who don't know me yet, I'm here for the third time now. But back then in 2019, it was. Bangladesh for me was completely new. The only thing I know a little bit about it was that, yes, it has a lot of the clothing factories. I also knew that maybe sometimes with cyclones or with hurricanes or with landslides, it was in the news. Um, but what made me enthusiastic to apply was exactly that I didn't know much about it. Like, I love to challenge myself, and Bangladesh is not a country that I think people from the Netherlands would, often go to. Not for holiday, maybe some people for work. We have a lot of people actually from the water and the agriculture sector working here, but I never knew that before. And for me, it was a really cool opportunity to learn about a different culture, push myself out of my comfort zone. So that was really something that inspired me. And I think Bangladesh as a country was also interesting for me because I was actually born in China. But I never grew up in China. I was always in the Netherlands. But going back to an Asian country, and Bangladesh is, it's in South Asia, but it's very interconnected to different regions because India is located next to it. China is also involved, Japan. So I think in this whole ecosystem of Asia, I think it's such an interesting place to be. Um, and I think all these factors contributed to me, at one evening at 8 p.m. or something, I started to apply for this internship at the embassy. And I think what also is another contributing factor was that the summer before I came to Bangladesh, I went to do a summer school. And in that summer school, I met two people who did an internship at the same company, like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but in a different place. So not in Bangladesh, but I think one was in Washington, D.C., and another person was maybe in a European country. I can't remember. But they were very interested, like very happy to talk about their work, and they said, this Ministry of Foreign Affairs is an amazing opportunity for a young professional. And it doesn't matter because I asked them, like, oh, but I don't have a background in politics or international relations. Can I do it, as a psychology graduate? And they said, listen, that doesn't matter if you're motivated, if you can communicate well, if you're open to new experiences, you can make a case. And because I had done so many different things during my university bachelor,
Yep.
I was in a good position to like grab specific things and then tailor it to this specific embassy position. And the embassy position was very broad. It was about political affairs, human rights, communications. So that is also really, for me, that was a great opportunity, right? I was interested in many things, and this internship offered also many things. So yeah, that's how I came here. And I think also one
And
take I can say maybe is that um, how can I say that when other people are passionate about a certain environment and they really encourage you, like this is an amazing growth opportunity, of course it depends on the person that you work with,
yeah,
but you can trust them. If they testify good things about the company, that's a very green flag that you can also then think about, like, oh, maybe I would like to work there. And if you know someone, you can also talk to them a little bit more, to explore,
yep.
is this something for me?
Great. And how many internships you did so far?
Oh, that's a good question. So before I joined UNFPA, let's see, I did an internship at the University of Cambridge in the UK for research specifically. I did an internship, like I said, in Rotterdam in the Behavioral Insights Group with the municipality. So that was more policy research related. Then I did an internship at the um, Netherlands Embassy in Bangladesh. Um, I also did a traineeship. I would say it's a little bit more professionally advanced a traineeship than an internship. It was also a bit longer. It was 10 months. But I did a traineeship at the European Agency for Fundamental Rights. So that's like the human rights agency for Europe, basically. And we work with the European Commission, the Council of Europe, etc. And after that, I wanted to go back to Bangladesh. And then I managed to get a position at the embassy again. So that was not as an internship, but that was as a policy officer. So yeah, in total, I would say I think I did 4 internships officially.
Great. This is interesting because it's
Yeah.
kind of common. I mean, people abroad they actually enjoy working and exploring.
Mm.
But Here, it's not that much common right now. Uh,
Right.
more of, mostly like one internships, just because of its a requirement for like for the business graduate.
Mm.
So, but if anyone wants, we through our like throughout this journey sharing session,
Yeah.
we have found like some speakers who actually did 3, 4, or 5 internships. So when they were like in first year, because they started doing hybrid internship, like working from home for other companies based in outside the country, like in different countries. So the thing is, when students start exploring
Yeah.
opportunities and associate themselves with so many activities, they can explore, they can like develop or build skills that will like empower them with confidence. They
Mm.
can do so many things with efficient manner. So this is very important. That's why I was just trying to know, why did you do that many internships. So
Yeah.
after that, can you share the journey of your like professional journey with the UNFPA, because it is very so far difficult and so competitive to get a job at UN
Mm.
association. So how did you get selected, and what is your task actually? What can be shared in
Mm.
general, and skills that you should have to perform this task?
Okay, so let me break it down. I can talk about my kind of selection to UNFPA. I can talk a little bit
Yep.
about also the tasks that I'm
Yeah.
doing at UNFPA, and then also a bit more about the what was the last
Skills
one, task
needed.
and the skills needed for working at UNFPA. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I just made some notes because it's late and I
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
had a long day and I might forget. So, um, right, the selection to UNFPA. Yes, you're right. It is competitive. I'm doing a JPO program, which is incredibly competitive as well because it takes you into the UN system for a fixed year of 3 years. Now, in the UN, for those who don't know it, 3 years contract, fixed term, is I would say an amazing luxury because UN, especially if you're a young person, you have maybe temporary contract, you have a consultant contract for like a limited amount of time, and that is something that I've seen around me. Like people have to work super hard, and then in the end, they are not sure if their contract can be extended because it depends on the funding, it depends on the project, etc. For me, I'm incredibly lucky to be a JPO, Junior Professional Officer, for 3 years. And how I managed to do that is that basically the Netherlands is funding my entire 3 years. So UNFPA is not paying anything for my position. Instead, Netherlands, as a donor country to UNFPA, has said, listen, we value the mandate of the UN so much. Like, we want to support you not just in terms of financial resources, but also in terms of human resources. So every 3 years, they bring a budget to the table and they say, okay, we give 10 people to UNFPA, we give 5 people to UNDP, like stuff like that. And all these people are recruited at the same moment, more or less. Like it happens once in a cycle of 3 years. Then all the vacancies start to pop up on a website, and then you can basically apply to that. Some of the positions are abroad in Bangladesh, in Philippines. I saw one in African countries. It depends a little bit on the Foreign Affairs Ministry focus as well. And of course, some are also in headquarters. So we have people, Dutch people, working with the UNFPA in headquarters in New York. We have some in Geneva, but also in UN Women. And like the different UN organizations that Netherlands is mandating or supporting their mandate. Um, in terms of application, it is interesting also that Netherlands is funding, I would say, 60 positions every 3 years. So I applied to Bangladesh, which is one of the 30 positions. And for this specific position, maybe 200 other people apply, usually between 100 and 250. For New York, they even have lots more apparently, but it is very competitive. Um, what I can say is that, interestingly, the Netherlands is also funding 30 extra positions. So in total, 60 positions every 3 years, 30 positions for non-Dutch speakers or non-Dutch nationals. So they really want to focus also on people from developing countries to get that same opportunity, right? which I think is amazing. So actually, I met a couple of weeks ago a JPO, a junior professional officer from Bangladesh, who is now doing her assignment in New York at the UN Women, and she's funded by the Netherlands for 3 years as well. So yes, it is very competitive, but I also think that if you have the right skill sets and you know how to apply to the UN in general, these are things that really give you to an advantage.
Yeah, just
Me, I
to interrupt,
yeah, of
this
course,
is actually the most powerful and insightful information. Where whatever the organization is, they have they should know how to apply. Skill
exactly, exactly.
sets is important. How the like to follow the process is very important. This is
Mm,
the most important yet
yeah.
skipped topic by the students. Yeah,
Mhm.
please continue.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the UN, for those who don't know, it has the competency-based interview. So that basically means that you get a question, and then based on your previous experience, you have to answer the question in a certain way. So what people, for example, call the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. You mention, but a lot of people don't know that. So when the interviewers hear your answer, they will rate your score, and even though it was a very good answer, they cannot give you the full points because you do not answer in the right system, more or less. But once you know how the system works, you can very easily tailor your answers to that, and it will also help you to to have a convincing interview and application, I would say. So for me, the application process was to send in a CV, and a cover letter, and also I think at some points they ask for the references. And of course, at the second stage, I had my interview. So the first stage was a selection on base of the documents. Then the second stage was the interview. And then after that, I was hearing the news that I was hired. But then in the UN, it takes a long time. So I think easily I spent maybe 2 months or 3 months. No, actually, way more. From the moment that I applied to the moment I heard my acceptance, I think it was maybe 5 months. And that is relatively okay, you know? Um, what is also interesting to know is that it really depends also a little bit on the panel. Um, how to say that? I don't want to say like what are your chances. Of course, your background matters, but also some of my colleagues they really want to learn more. Have more opportunities for young people and for young women in specifically. So maybe if there are people that apply with a lot of experience, but actually it is more of a junior job, it can also um, still give you an opportunity, even if you have not all the experience yet. But people inside the organization really value that you're open to learning, you are a very constructive communicator, and that you also are not scared to take on things that you don't know yet. If you can demonstrate in your interview these kind of skills, that is already sometimes what makes the decision in your favor. I've had an interview where I was on the panel, for example. There was one person who was 30 plus, 35 plus, very good speaker, very persuasive, but he was like, yeah, I'm good because of this, and that, like spitting all the facts. And then there was an interview candidate who was a little bit younger. She was female, maybe 27, 28 years old. And when we asked the question, she was reflecting a lot and she was saying, well, I am not sure if I am knowing the answer precisely, but this is what I learned in the past, and this is what I think can happen in this situation. And we actually gave her a lot more points because we could see that she had certain skills that the other person lacked. So that kind of communication skill is incredibly important to demonstrate in the interview and also in your cover letter, I would say. Um,
Great.
yeah, and maybe one last thing about the skills is that what I learned, because I work now for 1 year at the UNFPA, and my background or my work portfolio here is resource mobilization and partnerships. And when we talk about resource mobilization, we talk about talking to donors like UK, Australia, Canada, US, Netherlands, all the development partners in the country and even abroad, to see like, okay, how can we work together on projects? And it's not just about getting money, but it's also about what are advocacy topics. If we go to the government, like what are specific topics that we can mutually reinforce each other. When we talk about partnerships, just today we had the launch of a really exciting private sector partnership. That is one of the amazing achievements so far that I'm really happy about. So partnerships is for us, yes, reaching out to private sector. It's also about working with our partners in the field. It's about we're expanding our work on climate, for example. We're working how to work more with climate vulnerable communities, with youth, with women-led communities, and that kind of work. So it is very broad, it's very cross-cutting, and I think one of the main skills that I realized is super important in an organization like UN is, first of all, time management skills, being able to prioritize, be really, like every day you get hundreds of emails, but what is needed for you to be achieving the task of that day, right? That is important to know. Prioritization, networking is very important. No one has time to every time email everyone with, hey, this is going on. So you need to be able to know the right people, to go to the right people, and to be proactive enough to get the information that you need. And the fourth one, and that's relating a lot to coordination, is be very open in terms of yeah, how can I say that? Be open to no, not be open, be knowledgeable about what kind of things are moving outside of your area.
Yeah.
You can focus on what you are doing, but then you will miss 50 what is actually happening in the organization. And that is a skill that I had to learn a lot in the past year. Because the UN is moving with so many different agencies, with so many different topics, but you have to stay on top and a little bit in touch
Yeah.
with all these people in order to be able to do your work properly. Um, and my supervisor
Yeah.
is relying on me to get certain information to him, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of information gathering is super important.
Stakeholder management, maybe.
Stakeholder
Right.
management, information management, exactly. They're very interconnected and very important.
Right. And what do you see about mentorship? I mean, do you have any mentor? And if yes, how do you see it? How important it is to have a mentor for
Mm.
like students?
I can personally say it is super enriching and important, therefore. Yes. So I started having my first mentor, I think, when I was actually, my official first mentor was when I was working at the Netherlands embassy, because then I approached one colleague who was actually outside of my work field. He worked back then in the economic section, and I wasn't that much involved with that at the time. And I said, listen, I really like spending time with you talking about career and about different kind of, how can I do this better or how can I do that better? Really about self-development. Would you be able or willing to have these kind of conversations with me on a maybe bi-weekly basis? And having this more like formal mentorship agreement. We didn't sign anything, but I did ask him, like, would you like to be my mentor? And then he agreed to that. So that was my first, I would say, mentorship experience, which was incredibly valuable. Like, I really owe actually him also being here at UNFPA today, because he said at the end of my internship, like, Roos, if you want to continue in the UN, you can actually look at JPOs. And back then, I didn't know what a JPO was, so I managed to look it up, and that is how I learned about this program. And then also, I've had mentors, I would say, within an organization like in Vienna when I worked at the EU. I was part of this women, what was the professional women in Vienna network, and we all had an assigned mentor. Also, again, that was incredibly valuable. I had a mentor who came from the private sector, who was a consultant in, I think, an area that's related to health care. Um, Very different perspectives on life and on work, but that made it very, very enriching. And here in Bangladesh, I'm actually now a mentor to someone else, which for me was a new learning opportunity. And I really enjoy giving back also to people, because I strongly believe that we all have something to give back, right? You don't have to be
Definitely.
like 40, 50 years old with a lot of
Yeah.
experience. Like, even the experience that I'm sharing with you now of my journey so far, I hope it can help certain people. And that is also the
Definitely.
mindset that I have now with my mentor and mentee. I said, listen, I'm happy to share with you and to think along with you. And that is, yeah, that is something amazing. I think we all need to support each other, and this kind of conversation, even if it's just 30 minutes, have a coffee with someone, reach out to someone. It can be super random, but again, these random conversations is where the magic happens. And maybe also one last thing, like mentors, they don't have to be like formally mentors. When I worked in Vienna, I had one person who was working with me on one project, and he was amazing. So I tried to like work a little bit more with him whenever I could, just to be in his presence, to learn from him, to have this chat with him. And at the end, I told him like, listen, we never had official working relation like supervisor supervisee, but I learned, I think, most of everything from you, and he was the one who inspired me most. He was empowering and uplifting. So I would say, even in your organization, try to look for people that you find really spark that energy in you, and try to talk to them, and from there you can have a chat. And if you want to have more formal chats about mentorship, about development, just ask them, because I think most people are actually willing to invest in you for 30 minutes. It's People like to help people, generally speaking. That's at least from my
Definitely,
experience. So never be too
definitely,
shy to ask people.
definitely. So, and like you have been to different countries, different activities, different professional
Mhm.
roles, different people as a circle. So, you were a student once. So, if you have some advice for university going students,
Mhm.
can you share a few tips or advice for them? What skills or how they should develop themselves for making themselves future or career ready? What are the skills they should develop? Apart from their study.
Mhm. Well, I think the one that you said about research, data, information management is already very, very important, but maybe that relates too much to the formal study. Um, yeah, I think being proactive is very important. Um, I can see that in my office, we have people that coming to a big organization like UN, it is not easy. Trust me. There is so much going on. You're new, you're young, maybe. You have someone who is in the hierarchy higher than you. You have to listen to them, but you also have to be able to do your work properly, right? So, being proactive in a way that helps you do your work, and at the same time show also your work, is, I think, a skill that is very important. You don't need to be bragging all the time or asking like, I want to do this, that, and then not finish it. No, you have to be able to know what is your strength or your priority. But if you find something that you want to know more about, or if you feel like, actually, I'm not really um, I'm not happy with my result, or I would love to hear some feedback, like how I can improve, be proactive and ask for that feedback. And if you feel like your supervisor might not be the person who helps you best with that, you can ask feedback from someone else. But always, in the end, it will be you behind the steering wheel, Like, you can rely on other people to help you. You can ask people for advice, your professor, your teacher, or whatever. But in the end, you are the person that is shaping your own journey. And I think that is an incredibly powerful and important skill to have. And I think, second of all, like I mentioned before, like prioritization. And I think as a student, that might be a little bit more difficult than when you're working. Like, when you're working, you will realize there's so many priorities, but you have the 80-20 rule. So 80% of what is really important will actually be generated by 20% of your actual input. So as a
Definitely.
student, maybe I could also relate to that a lot, because, for example, if you have an exam, right? You study maybe for 4 days very, very hard. That is I would say, it is the 20%. So you do maybe 20%, because you have a whole semester of information, of learning, that also gets into the exam, right? But in the end, it's that last final bit of intense studying that brings you to your grade. So that shows that sometimes the end result, it relies on only a very limited amount of input, but a very concentrated amount of input. And that is important to, I think, develop in yourself. Think strategically, okay, if I want to achieve this, what do I need to do in order to get that? And be very efficient in that. And maybe one last thing, one last skill. It's a very like evident or open door, I feel. but it's about know how to communicate, know how to be a nice person. Um, I said UN is a big organization, but at the same time, it's also very small, I realize. And small in the terms of people that know people. And I think if you progress in your career, but even now, like all the peers that you work with in your university, in your classroom, keep in touch with them, be nice to them, try to help each other as much as you can, because in maybe 5 years, in maybe 10 years, they are people that you will be working with, or maybe they will be persons that can help you. Like, hey, I want to make a career change. You're working in this section. Can I maybe brainstorm with you a little bit about that, right? So to have that mindset of always trying to contribute something to someone, always trying to be nice and to be open to, other people's viewpoints, it can go a very long way. And I think it can result in win-win situation for both of you. So be a decent person, say thank you when someone invested in you. If you ask something, always be nice and polite. Sometimes on LinkedIn, um, I get messages from people asking for certain advice, and some messages are really nice and that make me happy. I feel like, oh yes, of course, I will try to help you. Um, but other messages are very rude, and then I am not that inclined to help them. So it all matters on how you do that and how you present also your request, I think, to other people.
Wonderful. It's like, it's like you have to, they should have to be a good human being, and creating a connection with any person is a
Hmm.
very big skill, like knowing how to connect, how to resonate, and in a polite way is very important. And the thing that you have mentioned, like research and, like continuous exploration
Hmm.
and follow the heart. It's sometimes people think it's a motivational word, like
Hmm.
following my heart, or only the big people they're following their heart. But
Yeah.
it's very, very normal. It's not a, like a difficult or tough vocabulary word. Following your heart. It's whatever, explore, because in student life it's about exploration, traveling,
Hmm.
go outside, spend time with friends, and explore.
Yeah.
This is very important thing. And Rose, thank you so much for the insightful and wonderful stories and lessons and advice you have shared with us. And this is very important that, like when people, because you have come a long way, and in your journey some people, or like, or your surroundings, or like so many people helped you in different way, giving
Definitely.
information by assisting. So you are giving something back in different ways. So this is the important, it's so easy, like giving back to
Hmm.
the society wherever you are. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for your insightful and wonderful session, the lessons you have shared and the advice you have given. It is definitely going to help people who have listened and going to listen to this session. And on behalf of SCD, I would like to share my gratitude and thank you for your time.
Definitely. And onek donobat also to you and to all of you.
Yeah,
And if there's anything that I can help with, or you have a question or follow-up question, feel free to get in touch. It was my pleasure, and good luck all on your journey.
great. Sure, Atri.